from his chest. Although the chest of Ali Akbar had been ripped apart, indeed so much pain in the heart that bled on that day was that of Hussein.
I remember losing so many, Abbas Akbar and Qasim's body, your two sons On and Muhammad, their final words echo to me. Their final
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, dear viewers at home, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to the Atash campaign brought to you exclusively by Imam Hussein Charity. We are streaming on Imam Hussein TV 3, the English channel, and we welcome you to this show upon which we are encouraging all of the believing men and women, those who are mourning about Abdullah al-Hussein, especially during these 10 nights of Ashura. We're encouraging you to give back and to answer the call of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam when he said on the day of Ashura, on the land of Karbala, when he was all alone, Hal min Nasrin yansuruna. Is there anyone out there to help us? Now, on the point of yansuruna, we have who we remember on these nights also the Ansar. So is there anyone out there to help us? The word Ansar and the word Yansuruna kind of comes from the same thing, and it made me really think about in terms of the Ansar, who are the companions of Imam al-Hussein. The companions, those who Imam Hussein speaks about, he says that they are the best companions that ever existed. And in terms of their sacrifice, their commitment, and their loyalty to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, it is immeasurable. And so we are remembering the companions, their sacrifice, their selflessness. And we are drawing comparables and we're drawing examples from these companions and how we can put it actively into our lives today. In order to put it into our lives today, we want to give back. And in order to give back, the projects that we are fundraising and contributing to are very simple, however very, very effective. Firstly and foremost, the details are on the screen in terms of how to contribute, right? They are a QR code or a website, and it will bring you to a page that will give you a few projects that are very dear to IHC. And what inspires IHC, Imam Hussein Charity, is a few things. First and foremost is al-Atash. And when we say al-Atash, it means the thirst. The thirst of Sayyida Ruqayya, the thirst of Sayyida Sukaina, the thirst of Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, of al-Qasim alayhi salam, of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and the thirst of Abil Fadl al-Abbas all remains today. That thirst remains today. But that thirst could be in the form of an orphan, of a widow, of those who are less fortunate than us, of those who are thirsty for knowledge, of those who are thirsty for shelter, of those who are thirsty for protection and safety, of education. There are many things that people are thirsty for, not just water. And so you're able to provide for the majlis and tabarruk to be able to give food and water to those who are in need. That's £50. £10 goes towards water, approximately 400 cups of water, so that you can nourish the Zuwar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And there's a water well campaign, which is about £1,400, so £1,400 goes towards the water well campaign. On the note of companions, dear brothers and sisters, I want to share a couple of words with you in terms of the words of Nuri Sardar. And he says, our bodies are not worth more than our beloved. So the companions now are speaking from their perspective. They're saying, our bodies are not worth more than our beloved, and our blood isn't worth more than Hussein's blood. Let our bodies on Karbala's desert rain and be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. And be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. We the Ansar, from near and far, came to his aid. He stood alone as Yazid's sword upon him prayed. Dare they touch him when our souls by his feet we laid? His death is death, and life began when him we praised. All our souls cried when with our eyes on him we gazed. If they touch him, the heavens scream, the earth is swayed. The son of the Kaaba and of Muhammad is worth our children crying and our blood shed. On our bodies, we'll build a throne for his reign and be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. We came running when a lone cry had reached our ears. Alone he stood, in his heart grief, in his eyes tears. He cried out, not knowing if any soul hears. He cried out, not knowing if any soul hears. Is there anyone to help me as death on me peers? We told Yazid, take our bodies, our heads on spears. We told death to delay his death and take our years. We told the swords to upon our bodies pray, and for our beloved threw our lives away. And when killed, we cried out again and again and be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. We saw his blood was worth more than the greatest gold, and all riches are outweighed by Hussein's household. The care of his daughters into our wings we fold, and their right to water with our swords we uphold. For something greater than gold, our bodies we sold. The greatness of Hussein's love sleeps in swords we hold. Today, for the greatness of Hussein we rise. Our bodies scattered with tomorrow's sunrise. For our murders, none of us will dare complain and be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. We saw the worth of Hussein as something unreal, and with our blood, his loneliness we would heal. Today, the greatest companions we'll reveal. Today, the greatest companions we'll reveal. No tents will burn, and no women shall they steal. Today we'll crush Yazid's army beneath our heel and make his army to our Hussein kneel. O Yazid, today is the day of judgment. O Yazid, today is the day of judgment, and you'll regret making our Hussein lament. Let us defend him here on Karbala's plain and be killed 1,000 times, all for Hussein. Many thanks to the poet Nuri Sardar, and there are certain words in this poem that resonated, especially with what I said before, but essentially he says, he cried out not knowing if any soul hears. Is there any to help as death on me peers? And that is what we are doing today, inshallah, brothers and sisters. We are answering the call of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because there are those out there who are less fortunate than us. There are those out there who are in need. And today, helping me to discuss the topic of companions, but essentially the topic of selflessness, of sacrifice. We have Brother Yasser Hilfi with us in the studio. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yasser.
Wa alaikum assalam, Habibi Mullah Ali.
How are you? I hope all is well.
Alhamdulillah, all is well. Just upset that the day of Ashura is quickly approaching
Yeah,
us.
I was going to say that it's now the 5th of Muharram, and we're getting into the night of the 6th, meaning we're halfway there.
Yeah.
We're literally actually halfway there, even in the afternoon. So how has the first 5 nights been for you? A lot of service, I'm assuming.
A lot of service, alhamdulillah. Hopefully it's all accepted.
Sure.
But it's been a nice experience because, this year I've been trying to go to as many organizations and majalis as I can in a day. And you can tell that the different atmospheres there are in every single majlis.
Yeah.
And the different faces you see, that there's lovers everywhere of Imam Hussein, and there's followers everywhere, and it always reminds you when you go to these places and see these followers why you're all here together, that because of the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you've all been brought together under this beautiful religion and the love for the Ahlul Bayt.
And so how are you going to look forward to the next 5 nights? What do you plan to do? Just the same as the last
I-
5 nights? Or is
yeah,
there
I-
something
I-
else in your
I
mind?
plan to do the same, but it's just that the first 5 nights are always the slowest in the terms of like what we do and what we look for. But for the next 5 days is where 5 nights is where everything starts. Alhamdulillah, subhanallah. It's like more people show up. Like, you know what? It's the last 5 days of Muharram. I need to get to the majlis, so the majalis, the organizations get packed even more.
Right.
And as you get closer to the days of like Abu Fadl al-Abbas,
Yeah.
the days of Ali Akbar, Ali Asghar, which obviously means you're going to get more emotional
Yeah.
and more prepared for Yawm al-Ashar.
Right. So we're talking about the companions today, Yasser,
Yeah.
and in terms of their selflessness and their selfless actions during Karbala, how do we kind of understand the selfless nature of the companions on the day of Ashura, and trying to motivate people in this day and age to be able to participate more with giving back? Because the companions gave everything that they have.
100%.
So how do we relate that to this day and age so that we can also give as much as we can?
I said this in an episode we recorded a few days ago, that every Shia on this earth has heard this dua once or twice or however many times from a lecturer from Imam Barga, where they said a dua where we say Ya laytana kunna ma'akum fanafuza fawzan azima.
Yeah.
So if only we were there with you, O Imam Hussein, for surely we would have gained a great victory.
Yeah.
And that's a dua we are making to Allah. If only we were there with you. I wish I was there with you. But and why do we do that? It's because we see people like, for example, Habib ibn Mudahir, or Hur, or the family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, all being told on a daily basis from the second they left Mecca, Medina to Mecca, from Mecca to Karbala, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam keeps telling them, if you come with me, you shall gain martyrdom, you shall be slaughtered, you shall be killed. And not a single one of them that were there on the day of the 10th ever thought to themselves, oh wait, Imam Hussein's taking me to my death. Imam Hussein's taking me to my slaughter, to my martyrdom. But rather than saying Imam Hussein alayhi salam is taking me to Jannah. Is taking me on a bridge that after I pass my death, after I do die, I have a straight link to go to Jannah.
Yeah.
Straight to my paradise for this sacrifice. And none of them said, please just let my son live. No, they made sure to take their whole lineage with them, and to all of them to get martyred and sacrificed in honor of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So if you're saying how can we link it, is that every time especially in Muharram, we're praying if only we were there with you. So that what? So that we could have sacrificed ourselves the same ways that these companions or these family members sacrificed themselves to you. But every day for the past 5 days now, Imam Hussein Charity or other organizations might be coming up to these people and saying, brother, there are orphans, there are widows in Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, wherever they may be, and we are asking you to donate. For example, we have campaigns that are like £50 for tabarruk, or £50 to give food to Mawakibs, or £10, correct me if I'm wrong, for
Water.
For water. So if I'm saying every day, if only I was there, I would have sacrificed myself for you. And I'm hearing the stories of Muslim ibn Aqil, Awn and Muhammad, Fatima and Alida, al-Banin, and their sacrifices. And I'm yet to hear the sacrifice of Imam Hussein or Abu Fadl Abbas or Ali Akbar. Then why, when I see on my screen, please donate £10, please donate £50, I'm not saying, nah, I'm all right. You know what, it's been a bit difficult this month, I can't do it. Or £10, I can't really spare £10. But then 5 hours later, I'm saying to Allah, if only I was there, I would have given everything. I would have sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
So I know I've repeated myself, but just to summarize that, how can we link it? Is that these companions to us are like role models.
Yeah.
We have the Ahlul Bayt, and then we have the Ashab of the Ahlul Bayt. The Ashab of the Ahlul Bayt were not infallible. They were normal living people. They probably all sinned before.
Yeah.
Or done a minor sin that I might have done.
Yeah.
But they overcame that and saw their Imam and saw an opportunity to donate in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to sacrifice something in the name and in the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they went for it. And now we see that they gained a great victory. And from 1400 years ago till today, we still remember that great victory of theirs.
Well, that's very, very good links that you made, Yasser. I think it's very relevant as well, because especially when it comes to the famous lines, Ya laytana kunna ma'ak fanafuza fawzan azima. This is something that we take quite lightly. It is a dua in the sense that, you know, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala almost resurrect us with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And even if we were resurrected with Imam Hussein, we would be victorious. But are you really and truly living these words? Because if you are, of course, everyone is living those words in their own way. So you may be giving back to your local community, and that's you answering the call of Imam Hussein. That's you saying, Ya laytana kunna ma'ak, I'm going to do this. So it could be service. But what we're asking you to do is to also look and cast an eye and cast a thought, actually. Maybe not financially. Look, if you don't want to provide anything financially, that's absolutely fine. But what we're saying is cast a thought, because that thought may grow in your mind, and then it may inspire you to give back and donate, maybe at a later time. So just cast a thought to those who are less fortunate. Now, these mawakib, just to give you an understanding, they save up 360 days in the year to be able to provide for the Zuwar of Imam Hussein every single day. Breakfast, lunch and dinner. They're cooking every single day. Now we have a special report from our team in IHC. It's a very special report actually, where I believe they may be interviewing certain members of the organizing khuddam, the servants who are organizing and waking up in the morning, and they tell you a bit more about the details behind the mawkib and how much amount of work goes into the mawakib itself. So we're going to go to our report from Iraq, and then we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I am in one of the kitchens in Hawza in Karbala, opposite Imam al-Hussein at Bab al-Qibla, and I'm sitting alongside one of the true servants of Imam al-Hussein. السلام عليكم عمو.
عليكم السلام.
شلون صحتكم؟
الله يحفظك.
خير إن شاء الله.
ماجورين.
اسم حضرتك عمو؟
أنا حميد اسمي.
Uncle name is عمو حميد. عمو حميد شنو خدمتكم أنتم هنا؟ شنو واجباتكم؟
أنا كنت أطبخ طباخ.
عمو حميد is one of the main chefs that cooks in the kitchen. عمو حميد أردك تسولف اليوم ساعة بيش بديتوا دوام؟ وشنو المواد اللي استفادتوا بالأوزان الكمية؟
8 الصبح بدينا إذا طبخنا إذا نوزع.
ما شاء الله.
بلي ما شاء الله فوق جو النساء أكثر من 400 نفر كان النساء فوق. جوا تقريبا 1000 نفر أكو يتغدون.
ما شاء الله. Amr Hamid says that he started his shift today at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is after Salat al-Subh has been up. He started with cooking and preparing everything. He says that there is over 400 females upstairs in their hall and over 1,000 males in the downstairs hall. MashaAllah. He says if you look to the other side, all the females have finished attending the majlis and they are taking the barakat with them to their households. It's an honor for them to take what they are given in the Husayniyat. عمو قل لي شنو الكميات؟ ايش قد تمن استفاديتوا اليوم؟ ايش قد حبوبيات؟
حبوبيات تقريبا من 150 إلى 60.
وتمن؟
تمن.
نعم.
حبوبات واحد. حبوبات 35 كيلو.
ما شاء الله. Only today 150 kilos of rice is being cooked. Now keep in mind that this is not cooked straight away. This is soaked in water first for a couple of hours, and then it is sieved, and then it is boiled and sieved again for it to be stewed and simmered ready for the pilgrims to eat. Other than just the rice, 35 kilos of pulses have been used, of beans. And also keep in mind the meat that is freshly slaughtered for the mawkib itself. عمو حبيبي شنو من المعاجن انتم حضرتوها بالخدمة الحسينية؟ كم سنة صار لكم تخدمون؟
أنا أكثر من 50 سنة.
ما شاء الله.
أكثر.
ما شاء الله.
أنا كنت خادم أنا دائما كنت أخدم بالعزيات شنو موجود بس بعد من 55 سنة تقريبا بالخدامة الطباخ.
ما شاء الله. Amr Hamid has been in the honor of serving Imam al-Hussein and his pilgrims for over 5 generations. He's been serving for 55 years. This is older than my age. It could be double my age. He's been serving and he says, I'm honored to do so. From 55 years, he's been serving and cooking. Brothers and sisters, don't forget that none of this rice could be bought. And none of the gas could be used to boil the water, nor the pulses, nor the meat, nor the spices and the herbs could be used if your donations are not sent to us. Don't forget that Imam Hussein Charity and Foundation sends its donations directly towards the hayat and the mawakib. Your money to the mawkib directly and straight away. Brothers and sisters, go now and donate to Al-Atash campaign. Donate for water, donate for food, donate for shelter, donate now. And don't forget that Imam Hussein Charity and Foundation will always be at your side. And we always say, Labbaika ya Hussein, Labbaika ya Hussein.
Many thanks to Abu Talib, our dear reporter from Iraq, who is doing some fantastic work, him and the Imam Hussein charity team, Sayyid Muhsin as well. But Abu Talib was speaking to a fairly old man who you can see has been in the service of Imam Hussein alayhi salam for years and years and years. He explained his daily timetable, essentially the shift that he has to go on, especially when it comes to serving the Zuwar of Imam Hussein and being able to prepare the meals for the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But also there is a need, brothers and sisters. We're not showing you these videos to see how accomplished these majalis and these mawakib are, to see how complete these mawakib are. They do struggle on a day-to-day basis trying to find the financial means in order to be able to purchase the ingredients needed for them to be able to service the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And that's where you come in, brothers and sisters. Right here, right now, today, you're able to contribute in the name of your marhumin, which is the most common way and the most common reason why people would contribute to the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, because they want their marhumin to gain the thawab of tabarruk. And that tabarruk, what better way to answer the call of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? What better way for your marhumin in order to serve the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, which is absolutely fantastic. So inshallah you're able to join. The way you can join is the QR code will take you to our website. That website has given you a couple of options. The most prominent options are, and the ones that the generous donators have been contributing to, are essentially the £50 which goes towards the Majlis or the Mawkib and the Tabarruk campaign. Other than that, there's the water, Al-Atash well, Al-Atash is the whole campaign, but the water cups, approximately 400 water cups, goes towards the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. That is £10, and 1,400 goes towards a water well, which will be able to quench the thirst and also be able to service a local town or a village indefinitely. And so those are the details. We're talking tonight, brothers and sisters, about companions, and specifically now Yasser is my guest for today. Thank you so much once again, Yasser, for being here. I want to now speak about some specific examples. Can you give us some examples of companions on the day of Ashura that showed selflessness?
A companion that I think I can talk about is John.
Okay.
That I remember a story, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mullah, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, on his last moments of John's life, told him that, John, I don't need you anymore. You've been freed.
Okay.
I don't need you anymore. If you want, right now, I've given you the option to be a free man and go home. Take your family and leave. But I don't want you here. So, and then John says, oh Imam Hussein, I came here willingly whilst I was a slave. And you think I'll leave willingly whilst I'm a free man?
Wow.
So words like that coming from a friend, from a companion, that from other people's eyes might be just looked at as a servant. This is just a servant of Imam Hussein. But in Imam Hussein's eyes, that this is his friend, his brother, a true companion. That even on the day of Ashura, a tragedy like day of Ashura, John was happy and willing to sacrifice everything he had for Imam Hussein, which shows the true selflessness that he had in himself. That I came here willingly, even though I was your servant, I was happy that you brought me with you to be sacrificed. And now you told me I'm a free man, and you want me to leave willingly? I would never do that. Or that, for example, one of my favorites is Habib ibn Mudahar. That not only was he just a friend of Imam Hussein, no, he was also the companion of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, a companion of Imam Hussein's father, Imam Ali alayhi salam. So when a man like him is next to Imam Hussein, and at such an old age, narrations say that he was in the 80s or 92 years old on the day of Ashura, but he made a promise to Imam Hussein and to Sayyidah Zainab that as long as I stand and as long as I breathe, no one shall hurt Hussein, or no one shall hurt you, oh Sayyidah Mawlati ya Sayyidah Zainab. So again, it shows me another selfless act, that all these companions, by the way, all have one goal, which is they want to sacrifice themselves for the message that Imam Hussein is fighting for, which is the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which still links till today. When you are telling people, Mullah, donate £50, donate £10 to these orphans. Orphans are the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Widowers are part of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found it of such importance that He put it in the Quran that these orphans are your responsibilities. Us, me, you. It's our responsibility to take care of them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was made an orphan to show us that someone like Rasulullah, if given a chance, look what he can become. Imam Ali, the father of orphans. So any logical man looking at this would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps talking about these orphans, about these widowers, and how the imams, the best of creations, done everything they could to help them. So why can't we help them? So why can't we put ourselves, we try to think that because Habib ibn Mudahar, because John, because Ali Akbar, Qasim were all there on the day of Ashura, that it was easy for them to sacrifice themselves. Easy to sacrifice everything they had because they saw death in front of them. But these children also see death in front of them. These orphans do still see death in front of them. And we have the opportunity to put a smile on their face, to maybe change their life by just donating £10 or £50 or £100 or £1,400. All of them, by the way, being a sadaqah jariyah, that once you've done it, the good deeds coming from it will never end. Even though you might be dead and you've passed away, it will never stop coming, the good deeds, until Yawm al-Qiyamah.
Subhanallah.
So these companions, Mullah, is a very good example for people like me and you to look at, because again, they're not infallibles. They're normal people, but they've done such a selfless act, which means me and you can do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Just on the last kind of point as well, before we go to the break, Yasser, I know you mentioned Habib ibn Madahir, but are there any other specific stories about his respect for Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam? I think there was a story, there was a narration once where Sayyidah Zainab realized that Habib had arrived, and she actually requested for Imam Hussein to grant her salams to Habib. And specifically what happened is that when Habib heard that the mighty Sayyidah Zainab had asked to speak to me, like, who am I? Even though he was the head, essentially the head of the companions, he openly says, like, who am I for Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam to come and say salam to me? And I think the narration state that he threw himself at the feet of Sayyidah Zainab, in the sense that, in such khudu', in such humility in front of Sayyidah Zainab, to not only that, but it actually shows the humongous respect that true loyal people, those true religious loyal people had towards Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. And if you just fast forward 2 days, the amount of disrespect that they had for Sayyidah Zainab just goes to show you what was truth and what was falsehood, right? So in terms of the respect that the companions had for Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, can you share a story about Habib ibn Mudahir, and maybe he found out about a certain situation that he was quite upset with?
So I remember a story that Sayyidah Zainab salamullah alayha was speaking to her brother Imam Hussein, and I think it was on the night of Ashur, where she was saying, oh my brother, I'm scared for what's about to happen to you tomorrow. I'm scared for what's going to happen to us after you get martyred and after the companions get martyred. And one of the companions actually overheard this conversation happening between Sayyidah Zainab and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So they went to Habib ibn Mudahar, being the senior of the companions, telling him this story. The story says that Habib ibn Mudahar gathered the companions and they all stood in front of the tent of Sayyidah Zainab. And they said, "Oh my master Sayyidah Zainab, until all our breaths are cut and we are not breathing anymore, and until we are dead, no one shall dare even come close to you or come close to your brother Hussein until we die." And we see that every single one of those companions stuck to their word. Because until every single one of them was killed, slaughtered and martyred, no one even dared to come close to the tents of Sayyidah Zainab and the tents of the orphans. So again, Habib ibn Mudahar is a very great example that he started his life as a normal man, but then met Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and then was given the opportunity to gain such a great victory because of the sacrifice he made. But we are given sacrifices to be made every single day. Shows like this is an opportunity for me to sacrifice what I have in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to show my loyalty and love to my Lord, to my Rabb. And in turn, I shall hopefully get a great victory back.
Ahsantum Yasir. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you on the show. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you the shafa'ah of Sayyidah Zainab, of Imam al-Hussein, the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, in this life and also in the hereafter. Thank you, Haj Yasir. So we move on to, inshallah, before the break or after the break, we'll be joined by Sayyid Ali Nawab, who will share more information regarding the companions of Imam al-Hussein, linking that to this day and age, and in terms of being able to give back towards those who are in need. Now, on that note, the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, there is one thing that would run through their veins and it's within their blood, and it's repeated time and time again, in the sense that even they say to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, look, you've given us the opportunity to say, look, this is not my battle, right? Imam al-Hussein says, this is my battle, this is not your battle, you don't have to be here. They want my
on niyaz and tabarruk.
Just imagine the profound impact a single plate of food, a glass of water, or a bag of fruit can have.
These simple items can nourish a hungry child, bring comfort to a struggling family, and even inspire a brighter future.
However, we cannot do this alone. We need your help to create a lasting impact this Muharram.
Join us in this collective effort to provide basic necessities that every human deserves.
Make your niyas count and donate your tabarruk now so that it can reach the Hussainis and the Zainabis of today.
Welcome back, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV. You are watching The Thirst Remains, the Al-Atash campaign brought to you by Imam Hussein Charity, where we are calling on all of the believing men and women, all of the viewers at home, in order to contribute back to society, contribute back to those that are in need. You are a very, very generous audience. So far, we've had some fantastic feedback from the dear audience and the dear viewers, and in terms of their contributions, it has been, mashallah, an outstanding campaign so far. But we are still asking for your generous contributions more, because what we are looking to do is to bridge the gap between the atash, the thirst of those who were in the Battle of Karbala, i.e. the widows, the women, the children, even the companions in Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and linking this back to today, because that thirst remains, brothers and sisters. The thirst of Sayyida Ruqayya, the thirst of Abil Fadl Abbas, the thirst of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, i.e. it may have been water at that time. However, at this moment in time, that thirst for knowledge, that thirst for safety, that thirst for protection, that thirst for finance, that thirst for water still remains. And therefore, we are calling on you, brothers and sisters, in order to answer the call of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and be able to say, Labbayk ya Hussein, through your generous contributions. And those contributions are very, very quite simple to be able to do, because if you scan the QR code that's on your screen or the website, it will take you to a page in which there are 3 or 4, actually there's a couple of different projects that you can donate to. But first and foremost, what we would love to recommend you to donate to is the Majalis and the Tabarruk campaign. This campaign essentially is providing the necessary ingredients, necessary finance for the Mawaqib to continue providing for the Zuwar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The heat and the temperatures are soaring in Iraq and neighboring countries, and therefore water is a necessity and water is crucial. And so therefore £10 will go towards approximately 400 cups of water for the Zawar of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And most importantly, genuinely most importantly, is to provide a limitless supply of water for those in need in small villages and towns through a water well. We will talk inshallah about the importance of water wells in different episodes. However, today we are remembering the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and one specific companion that really does shine on the day of Ashura is Habib ibn Mudahir. Habib ibn Mudahir, and the poem comes and says, "O Habib ibn Mudahir, grab your flag and from your death rise." Grab your flag and from your death rise. This saint your years had befriended. Your childhood his love mended, and they cried when his life ended. With his death is your true demise. This is from who learned your morals. Only his sight gave you smiles, and his absence brought you trials. Tell your emotions to arise. This flag on dust, it cries your name, and Hussein's wounds, they cry the same. What Fatima kissed, they defame. Remove death's veil and its guise. Quick, whilst the arrows hunt his scent. Swords want to sever his content, as Zainab's hope burns with her tent. Habib, Yazid's army surprise. Your oath that if to death you turn, to die again you would return. I know to break death's shroud you yearn, so break the chains of death's disguise. So break the chains of death's disguise. Many thanks to the poet Nouri Sardar for that poem. As I mentioned earlier before the break, that today we are honored to be joined by Sayyid Ali Nawab, who once again graces this platform in order to give you some wisdom and also emotion when it comes to connecting to Abi Abdullah al-Hussein's pure message. Sayyidina, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
How are you doing, Sayyidina?
Alhamdulillah, shukran lillah. How are you?
We've mentioned quite a couple of times now, and I mentioned to Yasser that we are literally halfway through the first 10 nights of Muharram. How has it been for you so far, the last 5 nights?
You see, a sincere, inshallah, we are amongst the sincere servants of Imam Hussein, but someone who has specific seasons during the year that they look for and they prepare themselves for.
Yeah.
And they know that these seasons need hard work, and with hard work comes tiredness, comes sleeplessness, comes going out of your normal daily routine and habits, not going home until late, staying up until late, serving until late. So although we might physically feel tired or weak, but this is the exact force that is pushing us towards the service of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. And as you said, we are halfway through the first 10 days or nights of Muharram. I feel that life is too fast for me to sit down and just not do anything. And I'm upset. I'm not only emotional and upset and crying and mourning for the remembrance of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but I'm upset that it's slowly coming to an end. Because the 10 nights of Muharram we wait for all year.
Yeah.
And we wish that it is lifelong. Because the sweetness of the service of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you will never be able to find anywhere else.
Yeah, and it does resonate with me what you say, because we also send our condolences to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman in the sense that he is also mourning his grandfather Imam al-Hussein, but we know that he mourns Imam al-Hussein every day and every night because of what he says in the dua. Can you remind us of that?
Yeah, the Imam alayhi salam wants to remind you and me, brothers and sisters, is that the mourning of Imam al-Hussein is not only confined to the 10 days of Muharram or to Muharram and Safar. لأن أخرتني الدهور وعاقني عن نصرك المقدور. If time did not permit me, Ya Abu Abdullah, to be there in Karbala, وعاقني عن نصرك المقدور فلأبكين عليك بدل الدموع دما ولأندبنك صباحا ومساء. So Imam Sahib al-Amr, the Imam of our time, is saying, speaking to his grandfather Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, if I wasn't there in Karbala physically, but I shall continue weeping and mourning for you, O grandfather, day and night. And I will shed the tears of blood and your calamity, Ya Abu Abdullah.
Sayyidina, we are talking about the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and there are certain virtues, there are certain qualities that the companions embodied. Well, can you name or suggest a few of those virtues and qualities in general that the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam had and they showed on the day of Ashura?
In an intro to your question, I would like to refer and remind myself and the brothers and sisters about a very beautiful verse in the Holy Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran states, وَمِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ أو من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه ومنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. Now this verse, when we come to read the tafasir and the commentary, the exegesis of this verse, it was revealed in one of the battles where Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, if I'm not mistaken, the battle of Uhud, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam was given the news that his uncle Hamza had been killed. So he recited this verse, and Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi alayhi happened to be standing by Rasulullah Rasulullah recited this verse. من المؤمنين رجال. The mu'mineen are men who were truthful and honest towards the oath and the promise that they gave towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فمنهم, there is a group of them, فمنهم من قضى نحبه. As a result of this promise that they gave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they fulfilled what they promised Allah and they were killed and became martyrs. فمنهم, a group of them, من قضى نحبه. ومنهم من ينتظر. And amongst them are individuals who are still awaiting. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, salawatullahi alayhi, heard this verse. He said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, am I going to be amongst those who man qada nahbah? Because I long to be on the path of Shahada. Rasulullah said, you will be, but not today. Meaning that your martyrdom is going to be later on in the future. So when we come to experience some of the attributes of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, this verse comes and describes to us that those individuals, those companions of Imam Hussein, were individuals who promised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they will be with the Imam of their time until the end. And some of these virtues I have noted down. For example, the most prominent virtue of these companions that stood out was the sacrifice. And we're on a show that asks people or invites people or encourages people to feed that urge of sacrifice within themselves. The companions of Imam Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi had principles, and those principles included principles of justice and truthfulness. So when you're an individual that seeks truth and justice, you have a principle, you will want to adhere to those principles. But how would you do that? By sacrificing. Because at times, out in the community, out in the society, not everyone is ready to sacrifice for the sake of their principles. They will put or place forward their relationships, their interests, their desires, their worldly gains. I will think twice about sacrificing my principles or standing by my principles. When I think that, okay, if I speak out, if I see a situation where it needs me to show a stance, it needs me to show the right path to people, but I will think twice. Right. Is this going to affect my relationship with my friends? Are they going to leave me? Are they going to stop communicating with me? Or am I going to stop receiving that worldly gain, that worldly interest? The companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they did not have a boundary of where they can stop or where they can continue sacrificing. They did not have a limit. They were limitless.
Right.
Excuse me. So they sacrificed everything they had. There wasn't a boundary. Whatever you can think, whatever comes to your mind about sacrifice, it was embodied in the presence of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The second was, as you said, selflessness.
Right.
Selflessness. It means that I place forward the needs and the interests of others before the needs and interests of myself. And here, this word entitles us or calls us or drives us towards the fact that we need to be selflessness or selfless, not selfish.
Yes.
Because there were individuals who were present in the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. On the night of Ashura, they chose to place forward their selfishness, not their selflessness.
Okay.
When Imam Hussein alayhi salam will come to explain this occurrence, when Imam alayhi salam offered or invited them to take the darkness and the night as a camel, as a means to escape and save yourselves. Some of them did actually leave. Why? Because they were calculating their worldly life alongside the life with Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the eternal life. So they chose the short life, the temporary life. Here, those who remained with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they chose to be selfless.
Right.
يعني شنو selfless? يعني selfless.
Yeah.
I give myself away to other people.
Yeah.
So this was one of the things that they put forward, the needs of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam before their own needs.
We'll just pause on that point of selflessness and turn to a video where we have a report from our team in Karbala, the IHC team in Karbala, who will show you in the video countless examples of selflessness, inshallah. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I am here in one of the muwakib in the holy city of Karbala. As you can see behind me, they're cooking rice. They're putting it into, I think it's called a deeg, but a big pot, which could probably contain at least 20 to 30 liters. Muwakib like this works continuously overnight, throughout the night, throughout the day, to provide meals for the Zawar here in Karbala that are coming to mourn for Abu Abdullah Hussein. There are fans, as you can see, there's one over there, there's one over there, and that is to help keep the area cool, because obviously with all the hobs and the gas and the fire, it gets very hot there. With the summer heat of Karbala, it's extremely hot, and these guys are trying to keep the environment nice and cool so they can continue to work. Here right now they're putting in rice. It's a bit yellow, so I'm thinking they've put in saffron. And furthermore behind, I want to show you it, but those who have been working hard are trying to eat some food, gain some energy for them to continue to cook and provide a service and provide food and khidmah for the Zawar of Abu Abdullah Hussein. Mawakib like this, always have problems, always have difficulties and challenges when it comes to serving, whether it will be electricity costs to keep the lighting, whether it is to have enough energy, whether it's gas, heat, electric, for them to continue to keep going forward, whether they have enough volunteers to help prepare the food, to help cook the food and to serve the food. But over here you can feel a team, a sense of community, a sense of teamwork, that everyone is here for one another and each other in order to provide khidmah for those thousands and millions who are coming to Karbala to send their condolences to the Imam at the time and also to commemorate the rituals of Abu Abdullah Hussein. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, I hope you guys can get involved. You can take part with Imam Hussein Charity, who help Muwakib like this, and who will help provide food for the Zawar of Abu Abdullah Hussein. Please visit imamhusseincharity.com. Thank you. Shukran.
Many thanks to Sayyid Muhsin for that detailed report, general atmosphere, and also some of the mawakib and the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. We thank once again the IHC team, who are very much hard at work, continuously 24/7 trying to get footage and to get a real understanding of what the situation is in Karbala, so that you have a better idea as to where your donations go towards and what it could possibly help. On that note, we are speaking to Sayyid Ali on the topic of selflessness, and so you were describing some of the qualities and attributes of Imam al-Hussein's companions. Of them is selflessness. Can we shed light a bit more around this topic and link it to possibly Habib ibn Madahib?
Yes, of course. So alongside selflessness, there were other attributes that were present on the day of Ashura amongst the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. For example, their courage. If you don't have courage, you won't be able to be selfless. How did courage come into place? When they were outnumbered. And in terms of resources, the opposing camp were equipped more than the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And the fact that you are 72, 100, 200 individuals standing in front of 30,000 of warriors, soldiers, horsemen, swordsmen, archers, which means that it needs a great sense of bravery and courage to be able to stand there and not to step back one step. When you come to face your life and your world and your desires and your interests, and you look back and you see, I have family, I have a great business, I have a good bank account, a good salary, a good reward, then you have on the other side your faith, your belief, your principles. Would you have the courage and the bravery to go towards your faith and principles and leave your work, your business, your interests, your hobbies for the sake of your principles? The companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam did that on the day of Ashura. One of the other characteristics of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam was being compassionate. They were compassionate. Not only compassionate towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were compassionate towards their colleagues. They were compassionate towards the women and the children that accompanied Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'm not necessarily talking about the family, the immediate family of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because some of the companions that joined Imam Hussein alayhi salam had their wives with them, had their children with them. So they were compassionate. They shared their wealth. They shared their belongings amongst the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam when they resided in Karbala. So some of the food, some of the money, some of the belongings, because they knew that moments later they're going to leave this world. So who am I leaving my belongings for? My wife is here, my children are here, so I might as well give it all in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they did all that as well. So being compassionate, being selfless, having courage, which leads us to some of the luminous names amongst the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. If I can give very quick example of some of the names that we can learn how to be selfless, how to have courage, how to leave the world and stick to our religion, because religion and principles will lead us to the happiness of this life and the hereafter. When we come on here and show you videos and reports from Karbala of our dear colleagues and friends going through the streets and the mawakib who are showing examples of selflessness by saving all year and coming and spending it in the first 10 nights of Muharram in cooking and preparing food. They stay awake all night, by the way. They stay awake all night. They cook, they prepare. So early in the morning, they give breakfast to the Zuwar of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. They prepare for lunch for the Zuwar of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Is that not called selflessness? I stay awake, I lose my sleep, so the comfort is provided for the Zuwar of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. One of those who showed selflessness was Muhammad ibn Bashir al-Hadrami. One of the luminous names that were present in Karbala was this individual who received news that his son had been captured as a result of a battle in Iran. So the son was involved in a battle in Iran, that time in Ray, to be precise, and the father was with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. So they received the news that your son has been arrested, and the captives, those who captured your son, they are asking for a ransom. So he had a choice. Life always throws difficult situations in front of you, and it is you that has to make that decision, whether you choose to remain steadfast on your principles or whether you're going to back out. Muhammad ibn Bashir al-Hadrami was told by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Muhammad ibn Bashir, your son has been captured, and I give you permission. You are no longer obliged to stay under my oath. Go to Ray, save your son. Muhammad ibn Bashir al-Hadrami decided to stay with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He said, I could either go and save my son and leave the son of Rasulullah to perish. No way. Imam al-Hussein said, okay, if you want to stay, you have another son who is present with you in Karbala. I'll give some of my worthy, expensive clothing to your son, and your son could go to Ray. And that's what happened. So Muhammad ibn Bashir al-Hadrami stayed in Karbala and sacrificed his life, his family and his children for the sake of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam.
So, Sayyidina, just for so that we can hopefully move on to Habib ibn Madahir, can we describe some of the qualities that Habib ibn Madahir had?
Habib, everyone knows that Habib was an elderly in Karbala. Habib was one of the known companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salam alayhi, and he engaged and joined Amir al-Mu'mineen in many of the battles. Then after Amir al-Mu'mineen, he became one of the companions of Imam al-Hasan. During the way when Imam al-Hussein was making his way to Karbala, he received the news of the demise and the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqil. Imam al-Hussein writes a letter to Habib ibn Madahir. It's very interesting how Imam describes and speaks to Habib ibn Madahir. Habib ibn Madahir was very close to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein writes to him, he says, وَأَمَّا بَعْدٍ مِنَ الْحُسَيْنِ ابْنَ عَلِي إِلَى الرَّجُلِ الْفَقِيهِ Habib ibn Mudahir al-Asadi. Oh Habib, you are a faqih. You are an individual who had memorized the Holy Quran. Oh Habib, you know our position from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And you knows better than other people about our status. So do not refrain from supporting and assisting us. When Habib receives this letter, he comes to his wife. He says to his wife that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam has invited me to join him in Karbala. He wanted to test his wife. When you want to do a good thing, make sure you get other people involved as well. He wanted to see what his wife would do. So here, he said, what would you do? Would you let me go to Karbala and stand in front of the army of Bani Umayyah? The wife of Habib said, Wallah, oh Habib, if you do not answer the call of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I shall dress the clothing of men and I will go to Karbala. Habib had a servant. The electrified atmosphere of Kufa meant that no one was able to enter and leave, because they knew that there were companions that wished to support Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So they had placed a curfew. Habib says to his servant, "Oh servant, take my horse and my belongings and stand outside in the orchards of Kufa. I will see you there. I will take my horse and you are free to go. أنت حر لوجه الله." Habib makes his way in the darkness of the night. As he draws closer to his servant, he overhears his servant speaking to his horse. He says, "Oh horse, I sense that my master has changed his mind, because it's been time and he hasn't arrived. By Allah, if my master doesn't come, I shall ride you. And I shall go to Karbala. And I shall offer and sacrifice my life for the sake of my master Abi Abdullah al-Hussein." Nafi' ibn Hilal al-Bajali says, on the night of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam went out in the desert of Karbala. It's as if he was picking, collecting some things. He says, I quietly tried to follow Imam al-Hussein. I would see Imam al-Hussein taking some of the thorns, some of the sticks, some of the sharp stones, collecting them. He said, I came forward. Imam al-Hussein noticed I am following him. He said, oh, who is this? Is this Hilal or Nafi' ibn Hilal? He said, نعم فدتك نفسي يا ابن رسول الله. What are you doing? Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam said to him that I can see thorns on the ground. I am collecting it because tomorrow I know my orphans will be running on the plains of Karbala. He said to me, oh, Nafi', take the darkness of this night and go, save yourself. Because these people, they want me. They're not interested in you. He said to him, Ya ibn Rasulillah, if I knew that I will be cut into thousands of pieces, then I will be perished and I come back to life, and they do this to me 100 times, I will never leave you, Ibn Rasulillah. Then Imam al-Hussein returns to his khayma. His sister Zainab wants to see Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Nafi' says, I overheard Lady Zainab alayhi salam saying to Imam al-Hussein, Ya ibn Ummi, did you test the sincerity of your companions? Imam al-Hussein said, Wallah inni la akhtabartahum wa ma ra'aytu fihim illa al-ashwas al-aq'as. The brave, the one that walks and he's holding his head up high and his chest wide open, ready to confront. Hilal or Nafi' says, I sense that Lady Zainab is afraid, or there is an assurance that she wants to gain. Yeah. He said, I ran to Habib ibn Mudahir. Habib ibn Mudahir was Shaykh al-Ansar. He was known to be the leader of the Ansar. He says, I came to Habib. Habib had taken his turban off. He was busy reciting the Holy Quran. Because Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam later on says, أشهد أنك كنت تختم القرآن في ليلة واحدة أو Habib. So he said, I came to Habib. I told Habib, Ya Habib, it's as if Imam Hussein's sister and family are afraid that we are going to leave their brother and their Imam in the middle of the way tomorrow. Habib said, Zainab? He ran out without his turban. He started calling out, Ya Ansari, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. You know, when in the middle of the night, you start shouting, everyone is going to come out. Amongst those who came out was Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Again, Habib said to Abu al-Fadl, or Abu al-Fadl, Sayyidi, go back. Take Bani Hashim and go back. I want to have a few words with the companions of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He says to them, after a long story, he says to them, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen is afraid and is unsure whether we are going to be sincere. So the day of Ashura comes, and they all stand before Abi Abdullah al-Hussein and they renew their allegiance. It is time for Habib to go to the battlefield. He goes. He was very old, but he did not hesitate to give everything that he had for his master Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. He went to the battlefield. He fought like a brave warrior, brothers and sisters. As he was falling to the plains of Karbala, he called out, Assalamu alayka Sayyidi ya Aba Abdullah. Sayyidi alayka minni salam. Imam al-Hussein came to the side of Habib. He sat by the head of Habib alongside another companion of his. And he said, Oh Habib, I know that I will be following you shortly, but I would like and love for you to give me your will. And Habib points to that companion and says, my only will, the only thing that I ask you at the end of my life. And he points towards Imam al-Hussein. He says, عليك بهذا الغريب do not neglect this lonely Imam of ours in Karbala. And he passes away. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, later on the afternoon of Ashura, when he stands all alone in Karbala and he says, Ala min Nasirin yansuruna, and he starts naming them one by one. Ya Muslim ibn Aqil, wa ya Hani ibn Urwa, wa ya Habib, ya Zuhair, ya Burair. Do you not hear your Imam? The narrations narrate, when the Imam spoke these words, the lifeless bodies of the companions started moving on the plains of Karbala. So these are the role models that, brothers and sisters, we long to walk in their footsteps. And they teach us and educate us on how to be selfless and how to have courage and how to give everything we own for the sake of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam.
Sayyidina, once again I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you in this life a long life of service to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and the intercession of Habib and the companions in the hereafter. Thank you once again for your time, Sayyidina. Dear viewers at home, alayka bihadha al-gharib. It is the cry of the companions. Every single one of them that fell would tell the other, I have fallen, but I need you to look after this stranger in a strange land. Alayka bihadha al-gharib. And so we ask you, dear viewers at home, in order to answer the call of not only just Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but also answer the call of the companions, and make sure that you can contribute in any way, shape or form to the service of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The details are on your screen, but inshallah we will see you in another episode of the Thirst campaign, al-Atash campaign. And don't forget, the thirst remains. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How can I describe your beauty? Though I'm praised by the Almighty, the one who overcame cruelty, is his family to her duty. From the ashes rose a leader, taking the role of a healer, standing firmly as a preacher. Her enemies became weaker. The greatest of all defeaters, for the hopeless she's a beacon. To not love her is a treason. Her love and strength only strengthen. She stood bravely like a lion. She hit stronger than an iron. Lady Zainab, you're defiant, and the earth shakes when you're crying. And all the men in this dunya wouldn't be half the man she was. I'm out of words just to praise you. Oh my lady, can you see us? Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab, बदले के लिए आए हैं, लाजिम है रजज़ से पहले मैदान में तुम भी मदहे अली सुनाना, ऐ ओनो मुहम्मद, ऐ ओनो मुहम्मद। जब सांस तुम्हारी बच्चों हो खड़ने वाली, उस वक्त सिरहाने आएगी मादर मेरी। दिल की ये मेरी ख्वाहिश है, उस दम मेरी माँ से जख्मों को तुम छुपाना, ऐ ओनो मुहम्मद।
जब लाशें उठाकर खैमे में लाए सरवर ज़ैनब 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 ये बोली अश्कों को अपने छुपा कर मैं भी न तुम्हें रोऊंगी और मेरे लिए भी आंसू न तुम बहाना ए ओनो मुहम्मद ए ओनो मुहम्मद है ताज़ीम की खातिर क्यों उठते नहीं अब बेटा देखो तो सिरहाने आए हैं मेरे भैया जागो मेरे शहजादों क्या भूल गए हो कदमों पे सर झुकाना ए ओनो मुहम्मद ए ओनो मुहम्मद है ए ओनो मुहम्मद ए ओनो मुहम्मद बराए ताजील ज़हूर इमाम ज़माना बाज़ बुलंद सलावात
सल्लु अला मुहम्मद व आली मुहम्मद Thank you to Brother Muhammad Abbas Kareem for that amazing recitation. Before I continue, can I please ask all the brothers to please stand up and come as far forward to your right, to my left as possible, just so that we can reduce the amount of interruptions that happen. Please recite a large salawat and come as far forward as possible. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Please use all the space on either side of the stage. As you've been seeing, it gets really, really busy. So please come as far forward as you can. Leave as little space in between you. And for anyone that is on the chairs, if it is possible for you to sit on the floor, just because we are a little bit short on chairs, and sometimes as the elders come later on in the majalis, it can cause a bit of a disruption. So if you can sit on the floor, please do so, inshallah. Going forward, as we have been doing, the majalis will continue to start at bang on 7 p.m. This is only because namaz time is coming further and further back. So we want to give it enough time for the program so that all that is planned can happen and everyone can recite for the right amount of time. So we would really appreciate if you can come at 7 p.m. every day. Inshallah, we start with Ziyarat Ashura with a very talented brother, Mustafa Al-Ali. So if you come at 7, inshallah, we can start the program on time every night. Just a bit of a schedule for the rest of the nights. So inshallah, tonight we will be commemorating Hazrat Ona Muhammad. And then tomorrow night, which is the 6th of Muharram, we will be commemorating the Shahadat of Hazrat Qasim. And then on the 7th of Muharram, it will be Hazrat Ali Asghar. 8th of Muharram will be Hazrat Abbas. 9th of Muharram will be Hazrat Ali Akbar. And then the day of Ashura will be Saturday, inshallah. So that's the little schedule for the rest of the nights. Just thank you to the Al-Naba school. As I have been saying every night, that there are children majalis that start at 7 p.m. and they continue throughout the duration of the majalis. So I just wanted to give a little thank you to the Al-Naba school. They are the ones that are running these classes and they are doing a phenomenal job. Without them, you know, there might be a lot more noise here, but now that the majalis is going on here and simultaneously there as well, it's both sets of people are gaining a lot from it. So all I can do is thank the Al-Naba school, and I would really appreciate if we all read a very, very loud salawat for all those that are volunteering with Al-Naba School. Just in terms of car parking, as I have been announcing for the past couple of nights, there's very designated spots where you can park your car, and there's a lot of areas outside of the school and some areas inside the school where you cannot park your cars. Please, can we ensure there are brothers outside that will tell you where and where not to park? Please do listen to them and appreciate what they are saying. They're only trying to help you. They're only trying to make sure that this majalis of Imam Hussein can continue and run smoothly. So if they do tell you that there's certain places where you can park or where you can't park, then please do listen to them, just so we can ensure that we're running smoothly, we don't have to interrupt the lecture constantly, and that inshallah we can allow the Shaykh to continue and give us all his knowledge. Loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just as I've been mentioning in the other nights, there are books outside available. Alhamdulillah, most of them got sold out, but we have restocked up. They are books that have been written and translated by Sheikh Abbas Raza. The books are as follows: The Life of the Sincere Companion Abu Dhar al-Ghaffari, The Life of the Third Martyr Ghazi Nurullah, Al-Muqibun, the first book ever discussing the bloodline of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and it's the first book to ever mention the name of the martyrs in Karbala from the Bani Hashim. There's also Bab Hadi Ashar, which is a book on the principal beliefs of the Shia school of thought, and is something that is still taught within the Hawza today. And finally, there's Tafsir of the Holy Quran, which is the first of an intended 3 volumes. So if you are interested in any of these books, or would like to just ask questions, would like to buy them, would like to have a read of them, they are all available on the stall outside. So inshallah you can benefit from that. Please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And just finally, before I invite the Shaykh, just a last little thing that we have been speaking about: donations, about the volunteers. We are always looking for more volunteers. As you know, Muhibban Al-Mahdi Youth Foundation is a volunteer-run organization. So if you do want to volunteer for these majalis, there's these Muharram majalis that Muhibban conduct, but then there's also majalis throughout the year that Muhibban try doing as well, including Fatimiyya majalis and most shahadats and wiladats throughout the year. If you would like to volunteer in different ways, whether it's through the social media or whether there's any other way that you think you can help in, please do so. There's volunteers outside with the green armbands. Please stop one of them. You can sign up to become a volunteer, and inshallah continue this message of Abu Abdullah and continue this pathway. So if there is any way that you do want to volunteer or help out, then please do so. And inshallah, in terms of donations, we are still in need of your help. It does cost quite a bit of money to it costs quite a bit of money to run these type of events, and we can only do it with your support. So please, there are brothers and sisters stood outside, so if you can help in any way, whether it's even £1 a day, £2 a day, £3 a day, please do so. Because alhamdulillah, the crowd is 800-900 people that are attending. So even £1 each is £900 a day, £1,000 a day, which will go a long way towards helping us fund for these majalis. So please, if everyone just even slightly helps us, it will help us towards it. Just ensure that these majalis can continue for the near future, inshallah.
Leave me with my tears and leave my heart broken, and leave my heart broken. You take all the children, you take all the women, so why did you leave me? tells me, oh, my rose, why are your eyes wet? I tell him your absence my heart can't accept. My father, every night at your side I've slept.
We usually do put a message on the screens if it gets really, really busy and we really need you to push tight to each other. So please do keep a lookout for that. But inshallah, I now invite the Sheikh to the minbar. So as you stand up for him, recite a loud salawat and please utilize the stage as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء، حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وعلى غاصبي حقوقهم وعلى منكري فضائلهم من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. آمين رب العالمين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء يا مظلوم كربلاء السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته السلام على ساكن كربلاء فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي يا سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما أما بعد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب صدق الله العلي العظيم وآمنا به زينوا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد a second of your loudest salawat in honor of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahibai, this dunya, the world in which we live, is a marketplace for ideologies. And you find that there are multiple religions in the world. Religions that perhaps from a monotheistic perspective, the father of monotheistic faiths being Nabiullah Ibrahim. And you have other religions, they may not necessarily emanate from a divine Lord or from an appointed prophet. And within all these ideologies that are being put forward in the world, you find that there is a school of thought that identifies the humanists and the school of thought of humanism. And in a nutshell, they have an organization within the United Kingdom as well, where you find that the humanists or humanism as a school of thought is built upon a certain number of foundational principles. So you will see, for example, that this school of thought advocates the fact that there is no creator and there is no afterlife. There is absolutely no God. Number two, they also advocate the fact that we human beings are a product, a biological, physical, we are a product of a physical and a biological process that is purposeless. Number two. Number three, they also advocate the theory that the human being is intrinsically equipped with moral code of conduct. The human being is born with a certain set of moral conduct. Every human being that is born, intrinsically within him or within her, knows that, for example, to steal is bad, to share is good, being polite is commendable. For example, being rude is bad. There are certain values, ethical values that are embedded within us. And because the human being possesses a moral code, an ethical code within him, the human being is not in need of an external source, be it God or be it prophets, to come and to tell you or to give you this moral code of conduct. These, together with many other principles, found the core of the school of humanism. For the purpose of our majlis tonight, we would like to explore this school of thought and see how it contradicts the teachings that are put forward within the Quran and the school of al-Bayt. And I would like to begin this majlis by presenting the conclusion first, as opposed to presenting the conclusion last. We shall present the conclusion at the beginning of the majlis and then present the proofs through which this conclusion is formulated. You find that if you were to analyze this school of thought of humanity and humanism, and this is a big issue, because from this school of thought you come across people who say, yes, it's not important to have a religion. It's not important to believe in Allah. It's not important to believe in the prophets and the Anbiya. As long as I am a good person, it's more than enough. As long as I don't harm anybody, as long as I don't steal from anybody, even if I don't pray, even if I don't perform Hajj, even if I don't adhere by the rules of Tahara and Najasa, doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that I am a good human being. And it affects a number of our youth, and a number, not even the youth, the general masses. And you will find Bain al-Qawsayn, before I jump into the main topic or delve into the main topic, between brackets, this ideology over here, this root ideology, oh, I don't need to believe in Allah and I don't need to believe in a furu'ud-din as long as I'm a good person. You find that it has trickled down sometimes even within the circles of the Shia Athna Ashari, who are proper lovers of Ahlul Bayt and Matamis. You come and you find sometimes within the circle of the Matamis, as long as I love Mawla and I'm a good person, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to adhere to my furu'ud-din. I don't need to gain knowledge. I don't need to do anything else in regards to wajib, haram, makruh, mustahab. Nothing doing. As long as I'm a good person and I love Mawla, that's it. The people, unfortunately, fall prey and become victim to a school of thought whose roots actually come from the roots of humanism. And as you will see within the course of the lecture, the roots of humanism are actually kufr in its entirety, but kufr with a new flavor. Kufr ice cream with a few pistachios inside of it. That's your moral code, if you could call it. And shaitan is very, very creative in the way that he misguides people. For Matamis, be careful that you do not fall trap and your love for Ahlul Bayt is not used by shaitan such that you end up disobeying that same Ahlul Bayt that you claim to love. And this is a lesson for everybody generally. In any case, if we were to begin our discussion in regards to humanism, and you look at one of the principles that they put forward is that this earth or this universe has no creator. Meaning that everything that we have inside of the universe was created by chance. And they come forward and they say that it is created by chance because of either evolution or the Big Bang Theory, where you had this random explosion, and through the random explosion this entire universe came into existence and is being maintained as we see it today. We counter this type of school of thought, and we counter this sort of logic using the Quran. For if you were to refer back to Surah Al-Imran, you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear when he states, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardh wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahar la ayatin li ulil albab. Indeed, within the creation of the heavens and the earth, the sky and the earth, and the system of day and night, there are clear signs for those who are intellectuals, ulil albab, people of the intellect. Again, let me open a bracket and close it. Bain al-Qawsayn. Notice how the starting point of a debate or the starting point of a rebuttal within dismantling the school of thought of humanism, we use the Quran. Some person might come and say, well, how can I debate with an atheist or a non-believer using the Quran when they don't believe in the Quran? This is a fallacy, ahibai, because at this point of an argument, within this stage of an argument, we are not concerned in establishing the divine origin of the Quran. What we are interested is in understanding the burhan, the proof and the logic within the Quran. The Quran as a divine revelation, book of revelation, when it comes to issues of our faith in terms of establishing the oneness of God, the existence of a creator, the necessity of prophets, the necessity and the eventuality of an afterlife and the existence of a successor to the prophet, the Quran speaks in the language of logic. The Quran speaks a language that appeals to the intellect. So when I refer back to the Quran, I should not be concerned what the source of the origin of the Quran is for the point of, or for the purpose of this debate or argument. I should be concerned with the content and the veracity of the proof within the content. This is an important thing or important lesson to keep in mind for those of us who are involved in interfaith or tabligh. For you find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran says, Surah Ali Imran, Inna fi khalqi samawati wal ardh wa ikhtilafi al-layli wan nahar la ayatin li ulil albab. Within the creation of the skies or the heavens and the earth, and in the system of day and night, there are lessons and there are signs for those who are the people of the intellect. And hence the Quran, through this blessed verse, is inviting mankind, number one, to observe the system of creation around us. And upon this observation, or through this observation, the Quran is inviting us towards a mental activity. And that activity is the activity of contemplation. Because by contemplating over the system of creation, a person is able to logically deduce a conclusion that the perfection within this system could not have come into existence by chance. And following in spirit of this verse of the Holy Quran, the tail end of the verse, the second part of the verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ, in the system of day and night. Truly, if a person was to sit down, and this is not rocket science, the lowest level of intellect is sufficient to deduce the existence of a creator. For if you were to sit and you were to contemplate just on the system of day and night, how is it that this earth rotates around its axis over a period of 24 hours, which then facilitates for day and night? It rotates at a perfect optimal speed. It rotates at a perfect angle. And it rotates within a perfect span of 24 hours. Why is the rotation of the earth not at a further X or Y degrees more or less than what it currently is? Why is it that the earth does not rotate at a faster speed than what it currently rotates? Why is it that this rotation around its axis has to be completed within 24 hours? Why not 18 hours? Why not 17 hours? Why not 26 hours? Is it possible for a system so perfect to come into existence by chance? Rationally, logically speaking. And number two, mathematically speaking, it is an impossibility for such a grand scale of perfection to come into existence through a random occurrence. Perfection, mathematically speaking, perfection can never be the result of a series of random occurrences. Mathematically, it's a fallacy, in addition to it being a logical fallacy. Tayyib, we move forward and you have tanazul. Tanazul, sometimes we bow down in the argument. We become a little bit flexible. We say, for argument's sake, let us argue and let us submit to the fact that this world came into existence through this random explosion. Salamna. Let us imagine, for the sake of the argument, we submit to this. Even if this system of perfection, and we are focusing just on the system of day and night, if you were to add every other form of perfection that exists in the universe that we live in, Allahu Akbar, the probability shrinks and shrinks until aslan there is no probability. In any case, even if we submit and we say that this system of day and night and the rotation of the earth around its axis within this perfect speed at a perfect angle within 24 hours is a result of a random explosion, then our question is that if the existence of a system is a result, the existence of a perfect system is a result of a random occurrence, how is it that this perfection within the system is maintained on a daily basis? The system coming into existence randomly is one thing, but the maintenance of perfection from the time that human history figured out and discovered that the earth is rotating around its axis on a 24-hour period, from the time that man has discovered it until today, this rotation within its perfect axis is continuous, meaning that the act of perfection is renewing itself on a daily basis. Who is administering the renewal of the perfection of the system? Why is it that the system doesn't change? The maintenance of a perfect structure. Who maintains this? You cannot tell me, again, mathematically speaking and rationally speaking, the maintenance of an act of perfection multiple times over an extended period of time can occur randomly. It's a mathematical impossibility. I give you a very simple example. You take dice, pair of dice. What is the mathematical probability of you rolling a double 4 10 times in one day, 10 continuous times, 10 double 4s in a row? What's the mathematical possibility or probability of doing this? And then try the probability of rolling a double 4 every day for 1 week, every day for 365 years, 10 times in a row. What is the mathematical probability of this happening? Zero. A person would have to be majnoon, would have to be insane. In fact, an insane person looks sane in front of somebody who would believe that such a function can actually occur and maintain itself randomly. And it is from here, ahibai, you notice that if you were to contemplate within the teachings of the Quran, you are able to very easily dismiss the notion that this earth and this universe and everything within the realm of existence has come into existence randomly. You find that the humanist school of thought propagate, and they are very staunch, they are very adamant in their core principles when they state that humanism as a school of thought is a school that takes pride. It is based on critical thinking logic and empirical evidence. And you can check their website even here inside of the UK. They proudly say that as a school of thought, they are based on critical thinking. Well, every aspect of critical thinking is demolished if you subscribe to a school of thought that slightly even tends to suggest that this earth came into existence by chance and the maintenance of a system of perfection can happen randomly. This is one. Number two, this school of thought of humanists come forward and they say that we are the process of a physical, we are the product of a physical and a biological process that has no purpose. Life on this earth is purposeless. Again, if we were to come back to the Quran, you find that, in fact, before I go into this point, let me just clarify one more point. A person may come back again in this issue of random creation or creation by the supreme being. A person may come forward and say, okay, Shaykhuna, we agree that, do you know what, the earth was not created by random explosion, rather the Big Bang was a controlled explosion, and everything within the universe is being maintained in a perfect balance and system due to Mother Nature. These arguments, Ahibai, are not new arguments. These are not issues or concerns that we face in the 21st century. And these are not issues that were brought in the 15th, 16th century philosophers. These were issues that existed, these sorts of concerns and objections, using Mother Nature as an explanation to the reason of creation of this universe existed even during the times of the Imams and the Prophets. If you were to refer back to a treatise which is known as Tawheed al-Mufaddal. Tawheed al-Mufaddal is a treatise that was written by one of the companions of the sixth Imam by the name Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad. But on tradition, this treatise was written by a companion named Mufaddal ibn Umar, where he narrates from Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Mufaddal ibn Umar transcribes a conversation in regards to Tawheed that he has with Imam as-Sadiq. And you find that this treatise was then authored, transcribed, and is also available and translated into English, if I'm not mistaken. You'll be able to find PDF copies of this on the internet. And I say to you, Shabab, understand Tawheed through the words of Imam as-Sadiq. Texts such as Tawheed al-Mufaddal are texts that need to be studied inside of the house, inside of our madrasas. Texts such as Tawheed al-Mufaddal need to be propagated and distributed within our scientific institutions. Within Tawheed al-Mufaddal, as Imam Sadiq Ruhi Lahul Fida is speaking to Mufaddal ibn Umar in regards to Tawheed and establishing the necessity of the existence of one God, Mufaddal ibn Umar says, Yabna Rasulillah, there are people within the community, and this is at that time, he says there are people in the community who actually state that the perfection in creation is not Allah, it's Mother Nature. How do we answer back to them? Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam says to Mufaddal, ask them, this Mother Nature, who is Mother Nature? What is Mother Nature, Aslan? Define for me Mother Nature. Is Mother Nature an entity that has free will? Is Mother Nature an entity that is all powerful? Is Mother Nature an entity that has absolute domain over everything that happens within the universe? If they say yes, then what stops them from believing that there is an entity who is all powerful and has domain over all existence and has put into a place of perfection within the system of existence? If you can believe Mother Nature can do all this and has these sifat, by the way, which are the sifat of Allah Azza wa Jal. If you can believe in that, why can you not believe in this? And if you believe that Mother Nature has no free will, is not an entity that actively, independently manages perfection within creation, then that means Mother Nature is a system which is a product of somebody else's creation. Because even this Mother Nature has to come into existence. Either way, the answer takes you back to the existence of a master architect, and that is the creator of the universe. Having said this, we come to our second point. They come and they say that the human being is absolutely purposeless. We are born as humans, we are born, or we are the products of a physical and a biological process that absolutely has no purpose. Again, we say to them that as humanists who claim that they are a school built on critical thinking, this sort of argument is a conclusion, a false conclusion derived from a number of invalid premises and suppositions, as a result of which the conclusion in itself is invalid. When a person comes and says from within the educational field or the faculty of philosophy that the human being is created purposeless, we say that in actuality, everything you say is contradictory. And again, within this, the proof is within the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed these issues from the time of Rasulullah. Within Surah Al-Mu'minun, you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ, do you think that we have created everything within the realm of existence, abatha, that we have created it in vain without any purpose? And again, if you were to engage the faculty of your intellect, you would see that everything within this universe serves a purpose. Even the smallest thing that you may consider as being insignificant plays a vital role in this universe. Take, for example, a leaf. Leaf. I don't mean the palm leaf, maybe a palm leaf as well, but my example is the leaf, the normal leaf that grows on the tree. Take a leaf. The existence and the creation of a leaf within the universe and the system of nature. Look at how marvelous the leaf is. This leaf, which is insignificant to you and I, is actually a world of a universe within itself. It has a system. The leaf is responsible to absorb sunlight and then to be able to create nourishment for the plant or the tree that it grows from through the system of photosynthesis. And there is this, if you could use this word, and excuse me, I'm just layman's language, but there is this entire transportation network of how water from the very depth of the roots is sent all the way down to the leaf. And then the water breaks up the particles and the carbon is separated. And the leaf has the ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the air, such that scientists today are saying that 30% of the climate change issues that we are facing in the world could be solved through the planting and the preservation of more and more trees and forest areas. If a single leaf is not purposeless, how can existence in its entirety and the universe in its entirety be purposeless? It's a contradiction. And then we say to these humanists that in essence you are contradicting yourself, because the humanists say it is part of their protocol or part of their mission statement that as humanists we find, or as humanists we come together to make the world a better place, because they are under the assumption that majority of the fracas that happens in dunya, majority of the violence and bloodshed that happens in the world is due to ideology. So they say we want to cut out of this ideology, and we as humanists, we seek to make the world a better place through our morals and our etiquettes. Subhanallah. Enter as a humanist. How can you claim to seek and find a purpose in life when you established an entire school of thought? Because inside of you, you know that you need a purpose. Yet on the other hand, you say that the entire existence and nature is without purpose. It's a logical fallacy that if you're a product of purposelessness and living in a system, in a universe without a purpose, within this system of non-purposeness, you come and create a purpose. It's an fallacy. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. A second of your loud salawat for Imam Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. Secondly, we come and we analyze this. We come and we analyze this theory and this notion that is put forward in regards to ethics and morality. In the sense that they come and they say to us, the humanists, that the human being and the intellect, the function of the intellect is sufficient to derive a moral code of conduct. All human beings are built with a default set of ethical values. Every human being knows that stealing is bad, sharing is good, for example, generosity is a good thing, for example, oppression is a bad thing, killing is a bad thing. Everybody knows this. And because us human beings have been born with these intrinsical values, a moral code of conduct, it's a part of your default creation, you really don't need a religion. You don't need an external source to come and tell you that this is right and this is wrong through halal or haram, for example. You don't need this. So there is no need for prophets to be sent by Allah to guide mankind towards good values. And with this, they counter what we believe in the school of Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in regards to Rasulullah, He says, مَا بُئِثْتُ إِلَّا لِأُتَمِّمُ مَكَارِمُ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was not sent to you except to perfect your morals. So there is a contradiction over here. Rasulullah is saying that a divine part of Nabuwwat, an important message of all the Anbiya, was to raise the level of akhlaq, morality, and a code of ethics for the human beings. And over here, the atheist or this humanist school of thought come and say, "La, you don't need anyone to come and tell you. Just inside of you, it's common sense to steal is bad." And hence they negate religion altogether. How do we respond to this sort of an argument? The answer towards this, there are a number of dimensions, and I know our time is short today, so I'm going to try and summarize this argument and inshallah present to you what I think, in my humble opinion, is perhaps the most satisfactory and convincing argument. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tayyib. See, human beings, correct, without a shadow of a doubt, possess within them a faculty through which they are able to recognize that certain actions are good and that certain actions are bad. And this is something that is warranted within the Shia literature as well, which is why when you study principles of advanced principles of jurisprudence, you come across chapters such as Siratul Uqala, the Hujjiyat of Siratul Uqala, the path and the behaviors or the global values adapted by the intellectuals as being a hujjah, as being a binding proof. And similarly within the principles of Usulul Fiqh, we have chapters where we speak about Mustaqillat al-Aqliya. Mustaqillat al-Aqliya is the function, the scope and the parameters of the intellect when it comes to deriving a hukum shara'i. Yes, These are chapters that are mentioned and are studied within our literature without a shadow of a doubt. However, what we do say is that even though the intellect has the capacity to deduce by itself and recognize actions being good or actions being bad, and the intellect has the ability to embrace and to understand and possess a moral code of conduct. However, the intellect is still in need of an external source that allows you to define the parameters of the traits that make up this moral conduct or this ethical code. How? I give you an example from the words of Maulana Amirul Mu'mineen Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Everything in terms of our traits, akhlaq, behaviors, has boundaries and has parameters. Such that Amirul Mu'mineen says, for example, courage. Courage as a trait within the ethical or moral code. Courage is something good or something bad? Anybody who would disagree that courage is not good? No, courage is good. The intellect understands this without doubt. However, courage as a good, commendable, ethical trait has a parameter and has boundaries. Amirul Mu'mineen tells us courage has boundaries. If you were to cross this boundary on one spectrum, excess courage, when it surpasses this boundary, courage turns into being violence and despotic. And on the other hand, if you cross the boundaries of courage in that you have too little on the other spectrum, it becomes cowardice. Courage as a trait needs to be balanced. Courage, or a person being courageous, has boundaries such that if he's within his boundaries, then the trait of courageousness is applicable on him. Similarly, when it comes to generosity, generosity within the ethical code of conduct is something that is praiseworthy, is akhlaq, is something that is good. No two people are going to dispute about this. Atheist or non-atheist, theist or atheist, sahil or la. However, when you come back to the words of Amirul Mu'mineen, he says, yes, generosity is a praiseworthy trait. However, generosity has boundaries. Generosity has limits. Generosity has parameters. If you cross the parameters of generosity on one side, you enter into the world of asraf and extravagance. And on the other hand, if you do not cross the boundaries of generosity, you will fall into the pits of miserliness. So how do you draw these boundaries? How do you draw the boundaries between miserliness and extravagance, such that you get to this middle ground that is known as generosity, which each and every one of us as a value system say is something commendable? Who denotes this? Who defines the parameters of these traits? And if you were to deep down, if you were to dive even deeper, you would find that everything within an ethical and a moral code is subject to this sort of parameter and definition. Who decides this? We are of the opinion that this is decided by a divine entity, a divine law, a Lord of the universe who puts forward for us an ethical code of conduct that is free of any prejudice. Because if you say, well, the human being can decide for himself what the parameters of an ethical code are, that in essence means that ethics And morality is something that is relative. What is generous for you could be miserly towards me, and what is generous towards him is going to be extravagant towards him. And what you have done is you have created an entire code of morality which is relative to each person's interpretation. And if you have 6 billion thinking people, you have 6 billion understandings of what generosity is or what violence is. What you have done is you have created a universe of absolute chaos. What is good to you may not be good to me. And therefore, we say that it is impossible for an ethical code when it comes to implementation to be formulated by the human mind, because the human mind is not free of prejudice. The human mind is not free of corruption to design and to designate boundaries towards certain traits as per their liking. You need to have this unprejudiced, non-biased, divine, perfect law that emanates from a creator. Furthermore, if you take the argument, the application of moral traits in this day and age is also a place of great ishkal. You look at certain moral traits, you find that its application within a context which is complicated from the world of politics and economics, meaning that the human being doesn't operate in a vacuum. The human being operates within the context of an environment that is dictated by economic circumstances, social circumstances, political circumstances. Within these environments, how do you implement a moral code of conduct without an external source of guidance? You find that the world in which we live, particularly the world of politics and economics, is plagued by this. Today, you have the issue of food, dumping of food. On one hand, the economists are of the opinion that, and on the assumption, this is an assumption, on the assumption that we are removing the private interest of the corporations. Take them and put them on the side. The issue of food dumping, whereby the economists will state that, for example, if the market is flooded with mangoes, you got to dump the mangoes in the ocean to make sure that the prices of mango doesn't dip in the market. When surplus or supply is greater than demand, then according to the rules of current day economics, the price drops. So the economists come forward and they say, if the price drops, we got to reduce the supply in the market, and hence there's the practice of food dumping. And they say that the justification behind it is that we got to preserve and we got to protect the best interest of our farmers. So on one hand, a noble ethical trait is to protect the interest of the farmers. But on the other hand, through food dumping, I also understand that there is starvation on this earth and people in their millions are dying without a morsel of food. Do I protect the interest of those who are starving, or do I protect the interest of the farmers? On the assumption that there is no cooperation or greed in the equation. An equation for an equation. Both of these are moral traits. Protecting the interests of the farmers is noble. Protecting the interests of those who are at starvation is also noble. Tayyib, who do you put forward? Until and unless you have a divine, unbiased, non-prejudiced ethics, you end up performing dhulm and oppression. And same thing when it comes to sweatshops. Have a look at some of the biggest brands, and you find these type of discussions are prevalent within the university. You have all these big brands and all these companies that open up sweatshops in Vietnam and open sweatshops in Bangladesh. And you find on one hand you have got a moral code, people who subscribe to a certain moral code and will say, Yabe, it is dhulm and oppression. You cannot employ people at 80 cents a day to manufacture, for example, an X-branded t-shirt or a pair of sneakers that sell for 100 quid. and you are getting people to work at 80 cents an hour. This is unfair. On the other hand, you have people who will sit at a different spectrum of the moral code, and they'll say, you know what, 80 cents is better than 0 cents, better than being unemployed. At least they are earning something, and that 80 cents is sufficient for them to live their life. Each one has a relative moral code. In this issue, who decides what is right and what is wrong? The existence, it necessitates these issues that we live in itself is a proof of the necessity of the existence of a moral code of conduct that emanates from an external source, and in our case, from the creator of the universe through the prophets. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tayyib, and there is much to say in regards to this topic, and it is important for each and every one of us to be well versed in these arguments and to be able to represent our faith eloquently and study these arguments and ensure that we don't fall into the traps of shaitan and kufr from areas that we do not know. Karbala, Ahibai. That, for example, if the market is in the ocean, Ardu Karbin wa Bala, the lands of trial and the land of tribulation. Karbala, the land of tears. Karbala, the land of ishq. Karbala, the purpose of our creation. Into Matamis as we get closer and closer to Ashura. Live the tragedy of Imam Hussein on a daily basis. Do not restrict the Azadari to be for the time of this majlis. Live the tragedy. Live the pain of Karbala on a daily basis. Take your souls and your hearts to Karbala. Tonight, we are gathered here to commemorate the martyrdom of two heroes, Sayyid Aoun and Sayyid Muhammad. And tonight you were here to pay tribute to Aqilat Bani Hashim, Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra alayha salam. Sayyida Zainab, one of the titles of Sayyida Zainab is Masa'ib. Sayyida Zainab, from the early days of her life, witnessed nothing but oppression, hardship, and tribulation. Historians mention at the tender age of 5, she witnessed the poisoning of her grandfather Rasulullah. And she sees how the Ummah usurps the rights of her father Amirul Mu'mineen. Allah. It is this Sayyida Zainab at the age of 5. She is inside the house whilst the people of Saqifa come and surround the house of her mother Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra with firewood. Do you know the narrations mention that when Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra was being attacked, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Sayyida Zainab and Sayyida Kulthum were inside of the house. The narrations mention that as the door was burning and the shayateen of Saqifa entered inside the house of Sayyida Fatima al-Zahra, they crushed Sayyida Zahra between the door and the wall. Sayyida Zahra falls down to the ground and she cries, Abata ya Rasulallah, Allah. Do you know the historians mention that when she was crushed between the door and the wall, Salman says that there was a nail that was protruding from the door. When Zahra got crushed between the door and the wall, this nail punctured the lungs of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra. She fell down to the ground. The narrations mention, historians mention, that Umar himself says that when I kicked open the door and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra was behind, he says, when I heard the cry of Fatima, there was so much pain in the cry of Fatima. He says, I was about to turn around. He says, and then I remembered my hatred for Ali ibn Abi Talib and what he did on the days of Badr and Uhud and on the days of Badr and Uhud and Ahzab. He says, out of my rage and my hatred for Amirul Mu'mineen, I turned around and I kicked Fatima with all my strength on her stomach. She cried out, Wa Muhsina! Allah, Allah. Do you know while this was happening, Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam is standing at the side of the house, inside the house. The narration mentions she's a 5-year-old child. She holds the hand of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. She says, my brother Hassan, why are they hitting our mother Fatima? Why are they hitting our mother Fatima? Allah. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that Fatima was choking. She was choking because of the thickness of the smoke from the burning door. Allah. Ya Zainab, in the way that your mother's door is being burnt, they're going to burn the tents in Shaba Gariban. Zainab, the way you seek protection behind Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, tomorrow the daughters and the children of Hassan and Hussein will seek protection behind you. Zainab, Allah. Today, Masaib, Sayyidah Zainab and Sham pay tribute to this great woman. Do you know Sayyidah Zainab? Sayyidah Zainab was an alima. Sayyidah Zainab had knowledge. Sayyidah Zainab had courage. Sayyidah Zainab had sabr. But Sayyidah Zainab also had a very delicate heart. Sayyidah Zainab had a very tender heart, and every one of the Imams took particular care of Zainab because they knew Zainab's heart is very delicate, which is why on the 19th of Shahrul Ramadan, when Amirul Mu'mineen was struck on the head with a sword by Ibn Muljim, the narration mentions that Amirul Mu'mineen was bleeding so profusely, they had to tie a bandage around his head. The strike was so deep, Amirul Mu'mineen was not able to walk by himself. So from Masjid al-Kufa to his house, he was leaning on the shoulders of Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya and Abu al-Fadil. He was leaning on their shoulders. They are taking him from Masjid al-Kufa back to his house. But when he reached in front of the house, he says to Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, let me walk by myself. Ajib. Imam Hassan says, oh my father, you have been struck and the wound is absolutely deep. The sword was also poisoned. You are not in a state where you can walk by yourself. Amir al-Mu'mineen was insistent. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba says, why do you insist to walk? Amir al-Mu'mineen replied back and said, Abba Muhammad, inside of the house is Zainab. Zainab, if Zainab sees me, I am everything for Zainab. If Zainab sees her father Haidar cannot walk, Zainab will die faster than me. Zainab had a very delicate heart. And the same thing, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, the same thing with Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. When he was poisoned in his final days, Imam al-Hussein is by his side. Imam Hassan calls for Atash. The hadith narrates, or the hadith mentioned, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba is vomiting blood. He's vomiting pieces of inside into the tasht. At that time, Sayyidah Zainab comes into the door. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba in his deathbed gets up and he says, oh my brother Abu Abdullah, hide the tasht. Imam al-Hussein says, why? Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba says, Zainab, her heart is delicate. She will not be able to. Every one of the Imams took care of Zainab. Zainab, Ya Allah, Akilat Bani Hashim. It is this Zainab. It is this Zainab on the day of Ashura, when all the youth of Bani Hashim were going out into battle. The children of Aqil, the brothers of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas were going into the battlefield. The children of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, each and every one of them becoming shaheed one after the other. It is this delicate Zainab who called On and Muhammad into the tent, and she sits them down. She sits them down and she says to them, On and Muhammad, do you know why you are here on this day of Ashura? Do you know what is your responsibility? On and Muhammad look at their mother, Sayyidah Zainab, and they say to her, Mother, yes, we are fully aware we are here to sacrifice our lives for the Imam Zaman of our time, Yani Imam al-Hussein. Do you know what Sayyidah Zainab said to them? Allah. Sayyidah Zainab looked at On and Muhammad and she said to them, my two sons, when you go into the battlefield, do not embarrass me do not embarrass me in front of my mother Fatima. I don't want Sayyidah Zahra to say, Zainab, you loved your children more than I. Allah. She kissed On and Muhammad on the forehead. On and Muhammad go to Imam al-Hussein. They go and they seek permission to enter into the battlefield. The narration mentions that when On and Muhammad sought permission to go and become shaheed, the gaze of Imam al-Hussein went towards the khaymaga of Zainab. Allah. Zainab is nowhere to be seen. Imam al-Hussein bids farewell to On and Muhammad. The Maktal mentions On and Muhammad went into the battlefield. Both of them were entered into the battlefield like raging lions. These are the grandchildren of Haydar al-Karrar and Jafar al-Tayyar. The narrations mention when On entered into the battlefield, he began to recite poetry brandishing his sword, and he said, In tunkiruni fa'ana ibnu Jafar al-Tayyar. Allah, if you do not know me, I am the son of Jafar al-Tayyar, the one who was the truthful martyr, the one who flies in the heavens with wings, the one who was given this rank, and this is enough for me to have sharaf in the mahshar on the day of judgment. At the same time, Muhammad came out with On. He began to recite poetry saying, I shall complain to Allah about this nation and the enmity they showed towards us. They have waged war against Kad nakaru muhkamid Quran wa tabyin wa tanzil. They have come and they have waged war against the teachings and the manifestation of the Quran. The Maktal mentions that On and Muhammad were fighting side by side. They entered into the battlefield. Both of them were fighting like a single unit, and they became a manifestation of Surah al-Zukhruf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah, where Surah al-Zukhruf, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He loves those muqatilin, those who perform jihad in the way, and they are like a concrete wall. Go and refer back to Surah al-Zukhruf. كَأَنَّهُمْ بُنْيَانٌ مَرْسُوس. These two boys of Sayyidah Zainab, On and Muhammad, the two sons of On and Muhammad, entered into the battlefield like a single unit. They attacked the right side and they disbanded it. They went into the left wing and they disbanded it. The hadith and the Maktal mentions that On and Muhammad side by side kept hinging forward, kept came pushing forward until they reached the middle of the Maidan. When they reached the heart of the battlefield, Umar ibn Sa'ad said that in order for us, we cannot attack both of them together. So all of you focus your attack on On. So the narrations mention, as On and Muhammad were fighting, all the enemies made On their target. So they began to attack On. Imam Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman in the Ziyar of the Shuhada of Karbala says, As-salamu ala Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far at-Tayyar al-Shahidu fi makan abih Allah wa tali li akhi wal waqihi bi badanih. Imam al-Hujjah says that when all of them began to attack On, Muhammad began to protect On with his own body. Muhammad became the shield for his brother On. The Maktal mentions this one struck him with an arrow, this one struck him with a sword, this one struck him with a spear, but Muhammad continued to protect his brother and shield him with his own body. The Maktal mentions the brothers kept pushing forward deeper into the heart of the enemies. So Umar ibn Sa'ad said, we will not be able to kill the two brothers. The only thing we can do is separate between the two of them. So the army came in all their ranks. They separated between On and Muhammad. On one side of the battlefield, Muhammad on the other side of the battlefield. The narrations mention that the first one to become Shaheed was On. They surrounded him from every direction, but two enemies came at the same time. They struck On the head with a sword. Allah, Allah, two swords and the head of one youth. On falls down to the ground and becomes Shaheed. Muhammad is looking at the body of his dead brother. He keeps pushing forward. The narrations mention that Muhammad was so heavily surrounded. One of the enemies came and from on top struck Muhammad with a sword on the head. Allah, Allah, the strike was so severe. The strike was so severe. Do you know, if you were to go into the Maktal, you will find that almost all the Shuhada, when they were struck, all the Shuhada, when they were struck, they would cry out and they would say, Adrikni ya Imam, or they would say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. But this Mal'un struck Muhammad so hard. Muhammad died without even giving salam. He fell to the earth and his ruh left that. Allah, Allah. Oh, that Muhammad have become Shaheed. This is the final part of the Masaib. Shiat Amir al-Mu'minin, Shiat Zainab. Allah, take your heart to the Khaymaga of Sayyidah Zainab in Karbala. Take your heart to the Khaymaga, and it is as if you are sitting at the Khayma and you are looking at what is transpiring. Oh, that Muhammad have become Shaheed. The Maktal mentions all the women gathered inside of the Khaymaga to weep for On and Muhammad. Layla is weeping, Rabab is weeping, Farwa is weeping, Sukaina and Ruqayya and Khawla, Safiya, all of them are in the tents. They are weeping for On and Muhammad. Imam Hussein comes in. He says, with the women that are weeping, where is Zainab? Zainab is not to be seen crying. The Maktal mentions that he went into the tent of Sayyidah Zainab. Do you know why? Imam Hussein's concern was Zainab, my delicate Zainab. I hope, how is she with On and Muhammad's shahadat? The Maktal mentions when Imam al-Hussein entered into the tent, he saw Zainab doing sajda to shukr. Allah, Allah, I say, Ya Aba Abdullah, this delicate heart of Zainab. Do you know that at the time of Asr, on the day of Ashura, when Shimr was kicking Imam al-Hussein on the chest, Imam al-Hussein turned towards the Khaymaga. He sees Zainab. He says, Zainab, go in. He knows Zainab is delicate. Zainab don't want Shimr. ماتم حسين ماتم محمد.
بابا چه دلم شرح فراق تو از این پیش مهمان من هستی. بابا چه دلم شرح فراق تو از این پیش مهمان من هستی. برخیز و بیا رونق ویران من هستی. مهمان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. رفتی به سفر عمه من گفته بدر جان مهمان من هستی. من تشنه دیدار تو عطشان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. رسوا و فنا گشته یزید از اثر من مهمان من هستی. فرزند تو هم قوت ایمان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. مهمان من هستی. با گریه دلت ناصری تشریقم بیبی مهمان من هستی. با گریه دلت ناصری تشریقم بیبی مهمان من هستی. گوید که فخر رقیه به دیوان من هستی. مهمان 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 من هستی.
Some things are worth the wait. It'll be okay, it's been too long. But hey, I won't complain. I guess I'll pray and pray. Call out your name, maybe you'll find a way to calm the pain for me, even though I caused you pain. I forget you often and bring you shame. It aches your heart. My sins I know we're far apart, but it's heart to heart. How you find me ways, Ya Mahdi. How you take me away, Ya Mahdi. Come and show me the way, Ya Mahdi. Lost for words I just said, Ya Mahdi. Where are you at tonight? In Karbala you take our heart with you. Wherever you are, will you say salam to Hussein? If you're there for us, if you're in Najaf, have me in your du'as. If you're in Mashhad,
Mashhad, I guess you're alone like Rada, or in Medina to see your mother Zahra. I hope you're not crying again. It rains, even the skies come bare. To see your pain, it's my fault. I mentioned the name of Hussein. Oh Mawla, look at me one time, one day. I know I did you wrong. You're kind, I guess. I know I'll break your heart again, but less, I'll try my best. Forgive me like always how you take me on. By now I know your ways, how you find me ways. Ya Mahdi, how you take me away. Ya Mahdi, come and show me the way. Ya Mahdi, lost for words I just said. Ya Mahdi, Ya Mahdi, Ya Mahdi, Ya Mahdi, Ya Mahdi.
As I lay in my thoughts and darkness is all I find, your land is the only dream that ever fills my mind. How can a heart heal when from home it just feels so far? Every inch of my soul yearns in hope for Karbala. Without you I'm lost in this world, I need to see you. My master, a love like yours I've never felt so true. And I know you hear me calling to you, Hussein, I'll come crawling. Please accept me, I'm longing to see your holy shrine. I long to be in Karbala, shed tears for you with a Zahra. Welcome me to your land so my heart can feel at home. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala. as the world becomes smaller and not what we once knew. The thought of your land is the strength that has pulled me through. The days have become weeks and now months and now years. But for your Hussein all this time I've pledged all my tears. I remember your land and once more tears fill my eyes. How long until your golden dome I see through my skies? And I know the time will arrive. Without you I cannot survive. Please accept me, I'm longing to see your holy shrine. I long to be in Karbala, shed tears for you with Zahra. Welcome me to your land so my heart can feel at home. Allahumma arzuqna Karbala. It's been too long since my eyes have filled with your embrace. Please don't say, my master, that I've fallen from your grace. My sins have made me a stranger when you once knew me. This world I'm a prisoner, only you set me free. For in my heart unwavering and eternal flame, ignited by your love and your anguish and your pain. And I know you won't forget me, and your land soon Hussein I'll see. Please accept me, I'm longing to see your holy shrine. I long to be in Karbala, shed tears for you with Zahra. Welcome me to your land so my heart can feel at home. Allahumma arzuqna ziyarat al-Hussein. I close my eyes and I'm near you. Your dust I can smell. I see where Zainab was standing and where Abbas fell. I see your Asghar in your hands, his blood thrown up high. I hear Akbar fall to the ground for his father cry. I see you alone calling for help and I answer. For us you gave your all and will do the same, Master. And I know as the time will pass, my love for you, time it
out lost, please accept me. I'm longing to see your holy shrine. I long to be in Karbala, shed it for you with Azara. Welcome me to your land so my heart can feel at home. Assalamu alayka ya Aba الجنان أقبل من Horse of my father, where has he gone? Horse of my father, where has he gone? You took him with you, now you're alone. Don't you know I'm his young daughter? Bring back my father, I don't need water. Zuljana أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. زوجنا أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. أيوة غليظة وحسينا، أيوة مظلومة وحسينا، أيوة شهيدة وحسينا. On his chest I sleep, no worry or fear. On his chest I sleep, no worry or fear. Now on hot sand lays my father dear. Oh father, how will I now sleep? Why do they slap me when for you I weep? Jannah أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. زوجنا أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. أيوة غليظة وحسينا، أيوة مظلومة وحسينا، أيوة شهيدة وحسينا. Zuljanawaya, you covered in blood. Zuljanawaya, you covered in blood. Is this the blood of Fatima's son? Why can I hear Zainab's wails and cries? Why is the sky dark? Has my father died? Zuljana أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. زوجنا أقبل من الميدان خالي وولاي وحسينا. أيوة غليظة وحسينا، أيوة مظلومة وحسينا، أيوة شهيدة
cannot bring my father to me, if you cannot bring my father to me, take me to him so his face I can see. I want to tell him how they've hurt me, to show him the bruises on my slapped cheek. Suljana aqbal min al-maydan, Ali wa walaya wa Husayna. Suljana aqbal min al-maydan, Ali wa walaya wa Husayna. Aywa Khalifa wa Husayna, aywa Mazluma wa Husayna, aywa Shahida wa Husayna.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We come here to remember after 40 days, to remember our leader lying on that desert plain. We remember the cries of the children, their screams for water. Wait till they find out their only hope has been slaughtered. Horses and animals drink whilst they cry, al-Atash, Shashima dropped to the water. My heart began to crush. We remember his arms, how they did fly, the arrow in his eye. We remember how we neglected those pains and only focused on the cries. We remember as Zainab arrived in Karbala, everyone escorted her along, but when she left, all she saw were spears with heads attached on. We remember her whole body sore, can't sleep, no father anymore, not even his corpse. All she sees is his severed head on a plate as she lies on the cold prison floor. We remember that child, how he flapped his hands like a bird flaps his wings. He couldn't do anything at all, other than break our heartstrings. We remember arrows here, there and everywhere, how they'd go in throats and eyes, but one stood out.
بسم الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله